I'm standing here at the mouth of the Ballona Creek. To my right is Marina del Rey, to my left Playa del Rey and the LA airport. Behind me are the Ballona Wetlands, and beyond them, the whole of Los Angeles. Something exciting is happening here. You can't see it, but it's real. Environmental groups from all over Los Angeles have come together to speak with one voice to create what could be one of the world's great parks.
Imagine a lush wildlife corridor connecting the Pacific Ocean to the heart of the city. It passes through the restored habitat of the Ballona Wetlands and surrounding bluffs. It winds along the banks of Ballona Creek, through Kenny Hahn Park and the Baldwin Hills recreational area, all the way to Exposition Park and beyond. A lush wildlife greenway home to birds and animals where we can all experience the sights and sounds of nature usually found only in the distant wilderness.
The value of having people walk out of their homes and then walk into a wilderness experience and or open space experience is, I think, vitally important for the spirit, for the mind. Our vision is having the connection from downtown at the Expo rail line, connecting to one of our corridors, Stocker Corridor, which is a habitat and pedestrian corridor, coming through the Baldwin Hills, over this land bridge, and then across down to Ballona Creek, and then taking the trip all the way down Ballona Creek with similar type flora and fauna that is native to the area.
Well, Los Angeles is one of the most underparked metropolitan areas in the entire nation. It has the worst park space to resident ratio. New York City has a better ratio. Chicago has a better ratio. So we're really starved for open space in this city.
It's important not only for ecological health, meaning a wildlife corridor, but also for our sanity, essentially, a place for us to go and visit, kind of like you have at Central Park and Golden Gate Park.
So what's really exciting about the time we're in right now is that elected officials on the local level, on the state level, and on the federal level are really listening to what we have to say. They really want to know what we want as far as acquisition priorities in the Ballona Watershed, and they're excited to see that we're coming together, and the environmental community is coming together and speaking with one voice, pushing one vision for this watershed.
Well, we really see Ballona Creek as a place of great potential. We've been working with kids and community volunteers to create murals along the creek bike path to make it a more attractive place, a place that people would want to come. And more recently, we've been involved with the County of LA and local middle school kids to plant native plants at key locations along the creek. And those too can begin to create habitat for birds that people love to watch.
Now that a coalition of environmental groups has saved a large part of the Ballona Wetlands from the developers, we have the opportunity to heal this essential ecosystem.
Our agency's goal is to find a sustainable way of acquiring and developing these lands, linking them up, creating bridges. Taking a hike in the Baldwin Hills or taking a ride along the Ballona Creek, people are exposed to things that you only find in the outlying rural areas. Our plans at the park are to use the most sustainable practices, the best management practices, to make sure that water is retained on site and treated, that we make sure that the parking lots are permeable surfaces so the water will go back into the ground, and to basically counterbalance all the urban runoff we have in the remaining 125 square miles.
This is a critical element in bringing back the marine life in Santa Monica Bay. 70% of the marine life in Santa Monica Bay, either directly or indirectly, relies on the Ballona Wetlands ecosystem for its survival. And if we don't put together the Ballona ecosystem along with the other parts of the watershed and make it healthy, then we're not going to bring back Santa Monica Bay the way we want it to be.
The Ballona ecosystem extends southward past the Toes Beach Dunes to the El Segundo Dunes.
Well, Toes Beach Dunes are an area of 4 dunes. They're the last remaining 4 dunes in the Santa Monica Bay, really, in between Point Dume and all the way around to Palos Verdes Peninsula. And this is a precious piece of land. It's got a lot of biological, ecological reasons for keeping it open and keeping it undeveloped, and I think really it forms part of the Del Rey Lagoon area, which is just adjacent to the Ballona Creek, and it's really all part of the Ballona Wetlands ecosystem as it comes through from the bluffs all the way through to the ocean.
Because the wetlands are home the hunting grounds for a lot of species, but the place where the animals live is in the uplands. They need to have wetlands where there's a lot of critters to hunt for, but you got to have dry land where you can live and have nests.
So we want to bring school children from all over Los Angeles to learn how this whole ecosystem and the greater vision ties together. Dr. Joy Zedler was one of the top wetlands restoration specialists for Southern California. Calls it the critical wetland-upland connection. Some of the insects, for example, that pollinate the plants in the wetlands have to build their nests in the dry uplands. It's important that we find a way to save the bluff right away because developers have bulldozed the bluff already. They want to build homes up there as soon as possible. We're not giving up because we've looked at Point Reyes National Seashore. We use them as an example where the model homes were built. The roads were in, the street lamps, and the citizens still didn't give up, and they finally found a way to buy the land and restored it. They took everything out, restored it, and now Point Reyes National Seashore above San Francisco is one of our top national seashores.
It looks like an oil field, but it's much more than that. Part of the Baldwin Hills and covering hundreds of acres, it symbolizes the conflict between commerce and quality of life in our city. The tangible versus the intangible. One day the oil rigs will be gone. Already the developers are making plans. But rather than pave it and build on it, creating more pollution and runoff and traffic gridlock, let's think about turning it green, making it part of the quality of life renaissance that's taking place in our city right now.
Something else is happening here at the mouth of Ballona Creek which is not so exciting. Los Angeles is a sprawling sea of concrete and asphalt, home to 4 million people, hundreds of square miles, and a seemingly infinite supply of automobiles. And every year when the rains come, the detritus and toxins from all those people and all those cars are washed into the storm drains. And much of it ends up flowing down the Ballona Creek into the ocean. It pollutes it, and it makes it unsafe for both human and sea life. The city of Los Angeles is now under federal mandate to clean up this stormwater before it gets here. It's going to be expensive. We've already passed a $500 million bond offering to get started. Some say it'll cost 2 or 3 times more than that. No one knows for sure.
The reason that Santa Monica Bay is horrendously polluted is because once the land was very important ingredient in cleaning up the ocean. Once you develop and pave over entire urban areas, everything that people drop out of their car, everything that when you wash your car, every bit of oil and grease that drops out of a vehicle, every bit of smog that settles to the ground after it rains, it all flows unabated right into the ocean. There's nothing cleaning it.
It's called the Ballona Watershed, 145 square miles of runoff to be cleaned up. The question: do we build expensive mechanical treatment plants, or do we use a natural treatment system like the one at the San Joaquin Marsh in Orange County? There, urban runoff is diverted into wetlands, where contaminants are removed by natural processes. Instead of concrete and steel, a beautiful natural wildlife habitat was created. Fortunately, here in Los Angeles, we have a place to create this kind of dual-purpose natural system. Some call it the perfect place. 200 acres of as yet undeveloped land at the east end of the Playa Vista development site.
The 200 acres of unprotected land that are still left at Ballona, that is east of Lincoln and south of Jefferson, known as Area D, are not an appropriate place to build more apartments, condos, and office space. Instead, it's a great opportunity to help treat urban runoff before it goes into Santa Monica Bay and into the ocean. This is both an economically and aesthetically preferable way than sending it to Hyperion wastewater plant, which is what is being proposed. Hyperion's near capacity and would require probably about $1 billion expansion. That's not fiscally responsible.
Because we've covered these wetlands where that water used to come down into the lower watershed and spread out and sit for a while and kind of get treated by this natural process, now it just shoots straight out into the ocean. And so this idea here is to restore that process of letting the water slow down and sit in the flat coastal areas and treat some of that water quality before it gets to the ocean.
Well, the good news is that there are 2 propositions that have been passed in the recent years. One is Proposition 50, passed at the state level. It targets purchasing lands like those at Ballona to help clean urban runoff. And then just last November, LA voters passed Proposition O, a $500 million water bond to in fact do the same thing, purchase land to help clean urban runoff. So we have a great opportunity to not only do what's right, but to be able to afford it.
Every last inch of open space in Los Angeles is vital to the public, vital to wildlife, vital to the preservation of so many important things scientifically and just in general that benefits the public, that the investment is well worth it.
We've had laws on the book, had the Coastal Zone Management Act, the Clean Water Act, all these laws to try and stop this degradation of our coast and ocean, but it goes on, right? And I think one of the reasons that it's so pervasive is that people must have this sense that it's happening somewhere else. It's not happening in my neighborhood, doesn't have anything to do with my behavior. And the truth is that it's happening right here. Overwhelmingly, the reason people visit California is because the beauty and openness of our coast and ocean. So when you think about this, world-renowned urban natural park, it's not just the economic benefits of cleaning up our water and saving fresh water. It's not just about the intrinsic values of education and research and quality of life, but it's also about our economy. I mean, the direct benefit that we get from attracting people from outside our state to visit California.
What we're working to do is bring about an entire paradigm shift in the way we think of Los Angeles, in the way we plan, in the way we build, in the way different departments of the city and the county and the state work together, in the way we think about how we live on the land. We get to create more parks, we get to connect communities together, we get to help clean up our stormwater, we get to capture and reuse our stormwater. There's a million different things that it sort of plugs into and feeds into. We have to stop thinking that we can only do things the way they've been done. The way they've been done is not solving the problem.
The importance for our children to understand these natural processes and the beauty of nature is that, one, you really only love the things that you understand, and you only protect the things that you love, right? And so if we want to turn around this degradation of our natural environment and our quality of life, we have to, one, make this thing fun for kids, that they get to go down into these natural places and have fun and observe nature. And once they get that and they love the place, then you've probably converted a lifelong environmentalist.